Kanu was a poor fisherman in the village of Ama. He worked hard every day, but no matter how much he fished, he never caught enough to make his family happy. The river seemed empty, and he wondered how he would ever provide for his wife, Adanna, and their little daughter, Zuri. Life was tough, but Kanu never gave up. He knew deep inside him that something special was waiting, though he didn't know what it was. One quiet evening, as the sun was setting and Kanu was pulling in his fishing net with only a few small fish caught, an old man appeared by the riverside. The man's face was full of wrinkles, his beard white like the clouds, and his eyes seemed to glow softly. He wore a simple, dusty robe, and he looked at Kanu with a gentle smile. Kanu felt something strange in the air, as if the wind had whispered a secret only he could hear. "You are Kanu, the fisherman, aren't you?" the old man asked in a low voice. Kanu, surprised, nodded slowly. "Yes, I am," he replied, his heart beating a little faster. The old man's smile grew wider. "I have been watching you, Kanu. You are a man of great patience and kindness, but you are also a man in need. I can help you change your life." Kanu stared at the old man, confused but curious. "How can you help me?" he asked, feeling a little hope rise in his chest. The old man leaned closer and whispered, "I will give you 3 challenges, 3 trials. If you can pass them, you will have everything you ever dreamed of. More fish than you can count, wealth beyond measure, and happiness for your family. But be warned, each trial will be harder than the last." Kanu thought about his family. The idea of having enough fish to feed them and more seemed too good to be true, but he knew nothing came easy in life. Still, he wanted to try. "I will do it," he said with determination. "I will face your trials." The old man smiled again, his eyes twinkling. "Good," he said. "Your first trial begins at dawn tomorrow. Be ready." That night, Kanu couldn't sleep. His mind was racing with thoughts of the old man and the promise of a better life. What kind of trials would he face? Would they be dangerous? He didn't know, but he knew one thing for sure: he couldn't fail. He had to succeed for the sake of his family. He looked at Adanna and Zuri as they slept, and the surge of love filled his heart. When the first light of dawn touched the sky, Kanu was already awake, waiting by the riverbank where he had met the old man. He felt nervous, but he was ready. Suddenly, the old man appeared again, as quietly as a breeze. "Your first trial," the old man began, "is to find the biggest fish in this river. But this is no ordinary fish. It is a clever one, and it hides deep in the water. You must use your wits and patience to catch it." Kanu nodded and grabbed his fishing net. He cast it into the river and waited, his eyes scanning the water for any sign of movement. Hours passed, and the sun rose high in the sky. But Kanu didn't give up. He kept waiting, knowing that this was part of the test. His hands were tired and his back ached, but he refused to stop. Just as he was about to lose hope, he saw a flash of silver deep in the water. His heart leaped in his chest. There it was, the biggest fish he had ever seen. It was swimming swiftly, darting through the water like a shadow. Kanu quickly pulled in his net, but the fish was too fast. It escaped the first time, and the second, and even the third. Frustration began to build inside Kanu, but he remembered the old man's word: "Use your wit and patience." Kanu closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and thought, The fish was too smart for a simple trap. He had to outthink it. He knew what to do. He cut a small piece of his shirt and tied it to the net, making it look like bait. Then he cast the net one last time. This time, the fish took the bait, and Kanu pulled the net with all his strength. It was a fierce struggle, but in the end, he caught the fish. The fish was huge, shining like gold in the sunlight. Kanu smiled with relief, his heart pounding in his chest. The old man appeared again, clapping his hands slowly. "Well done, Kanu. You have passed the first trial," he said with a proud look in his eyes. "But remember, the next trial will be harder." Kanu felt proud of himself, but the old man's words reminded him that his journey was far from over. He returned home with the fish, and when Adana and Zuri saw it, they were overjoyed. They cooked the fish, and for the first time in a long while, the family had more than enough to eat. But Kanu knew that there were still 2 trials left. The next morning, Kanu stood by the river again, waiting for the old man. The second trial weighed heavily on his mind. He had no idea what was coming, but he was ready. The old man appeared once more, his eyes twinkling with mystery. "For your second trial," the old man said, "you must find the hidden cave in the mountain. Inside the cave is a secret treasure, but many have tried and failed to find it. You must be brave and clever, for the path is dangerous." Kanu's heart sank. He had never climbed a mountain before, and the idea of facing danger scared him. But he remembered his promise to his family. He couldn't back down now. He nodded and set off toward the mountain. The journey was long and difficult. The mountain was steep and the rocks were sharp. Kanu's hands and feet bled as he climbed higher and higher. The sun beat down on him, and his body ached with every step. But he didn't stop. He pushed forward, determined to find the cave. At last, after what felt like hours, Kanu reached a narrow path that led to a dark opening in the mountain. It was the cave, but as he stepped closer, he heard strange sounds coming from inside, like whispers and the rustle of something moving. Fear gripped his heart, but he swallowed it down and entered the cave. The inside of the cave was cold and dark, with only a faint light shining from deep within. Kanu followed the light, his footsteps echoing in the stillness. The whispers grew louder, but he couldn't see anyone. He felt like something was watching him, but he didn't stop. He kept walking until he reached a small chamber. In the center of the chamber was a glowing stone, sitting on top of a pile of gold. Kanu's eyes widened. This must be the treasure the old man had spoken of. But just as he reached out to take the stone, a loud voice echoed through the cave. "Who dares take my treasure?" Kanu froze, his heart racing. He looked around but saw no one. The voice boomed again, shaking the walls of the cave. Kanu's legs trembled with fear, but he forced himself to stay calm. He knew this must be part of the trial. "I am Kanu," he called out, his voice shaking. "I'm here to claim what is mine." Suddenly, the glowing stone lifted into the air, and a shadowy figure appeared. It was the spirit of the mountain, a tall, dark shape with glowing eyes. The spirit's voice was deep and full of power. "You have shown bravery by coming here," the spirit said. "But this treasure comes at a cost. You must answer my question to take it. If you fail, you will never leave this cave." Kanu swallowed hard. He was scared, but he knew he had no choice. "What is your question?" he asked, his voice steady. The spirit's eyes glowed brighter. "What is more valuable than gold, but cannot be seen or touched?" Kanu thought hard. His mind raced, but the answer wouldn't come. The spirit watched him silently, waiting. Then Kanu thought of his family, Adana and Zuri. He thought of the love he felt for them, the joy they brought him, and how it was more valuable than anything in the world. "Love," Kanu said quietly. "Love is more valuable than gold, but it cannot be seen or touched." The spirit's eyes softened, and the glowing stone dropped back onto the pile of gold. "You have answered wisely," the spirit said. "Take the stone, and the treasure is yours." Kanu breathed a sigh of relief. He took the glowing stone and left the cave with the treasure. He had passed the second trial. But as he climbed down the mountain, he knew the final trial would be the hardest yet. When Kanu returned to the village, he shared the treasure with everyone. The people of Amma were grateful, and they praised Kanu for his bravery. But Kanu knew he couldn't rest yet. There was still one more trial to face. The next day, Kanu stood by the river once again. The old man appeared, his face more serious than before. "For your final trial," the old man said, "you must face your greatest fear. Only then will you truly be free." Kanu's heart sank. He had faced many dangers, but his greatest fear was something different. He had always feared losing his family. Adana and Zuri were his life. He couldn't imagine a world without them. The thought of losing them made his chest tighten with dread. But the old man didn't say how he would face his fear. He simply disappeared, leaving Kanu alone with his thoughts. That night, Kanu couldn't sleep. He held Adana and Zuri close, afraid that something terrible would happen. His mind was filled with dark thoughts, and he struggled to stay calm. The next morning, Kanu woke up to find Adana and Zuri missing. Panic gripped his heart. He searched the entire village, calling their names, but there was no sign of them. His worst fear had come true. They were gone. Desperate, Kanu ran to the river, hoping to find the old man. When he arrived, the old man was waiting for him. "Where are they?" Kanu shouted, his voice trembling with fear. "Where are my wife and daughter?" The old man's eyes were sad. "They are safe, Kanu," he said softly. "But to find them, you must face your fear." Kanu's heart pounded in his chest. He didn't understand. How could he face his fear if they were already gone? Kanu's heart raced as he stared at the old man, confused and scared. "How can I face my fear if my family is already gone?" he asked, his voice trembling. The old man's expression softened, and he spoke gently. "Your fear is not about them being gone, Kanu. Your fear is losing them forever. But this trial is not about fighting anyone or finding anything. It's about understanding that true love cannot be lost." Kanu felt tears sting his eyes. He had always feared that one day something terrible would take his family from him. That fear had lived deep in his heart for so long. He had always worried about not being strong enough to protect them, not being able to provide for them. "What do I need to do?" Kanu asked, his voice barely a whisper. The old man stepped closer and placed a hand on Kanu's shoulder. "You need to believe that the love you have for Adana and Zuri, will always be with you. No matter where they are, no matter what happens, that love will never fade. You must let go of your fear to see the truth." Kanu didn't fully understand, but he knew that the old man's words were important. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He thought of Adana's kind smile and Zuri's bright laughter. He thought of all the moments they had shared as a family, the love they gave him and the love he gave in return. Slowly, Kanu began to feel a warmth in his chest. It was the feeling of love, stronger than fear. He realized that even if he couldn't see them, their love was with him. It was part of him, and it always would be. No trial, no danger, and no distance could take that away. When Kanu opened his eyes, the old man was smiling. "You have passed the final trial, Kanu," he said. "You have conquered your greatest fear." At that moment, Kanu heard soft footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw Adana and Zuri walking towards him, safe and smiling. His heart swelled with joy, and he rushed to embrace them, tears of happiness streaming down his face. Adana looked at him with gentle eyes. "We were never truly gone, Kanu," she said softly. "We are always with you." Kanu held them close, feeling an overwhelming sense of peace. The old man watched from a distance, his face full of pride. "You have learned the most important lesson, Kanu," the old man said. "Love is more powerful than anything in this world. You are free from your fear now, and because of that, you will always find strength." Kanu wiped his tears and looked at the old man. "Thank you," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you for helping me see the truth." The old man nodded. "You are a man of great courage and heart. Your journey has made you stronger, wiser, and more at peace. Your family is blessed to have you, just as you are blessed to have them." With that, the old man began to walk away, his figure fading into the soft morning light. Kanu watched him go, feeling a deep sense of understanding in his heart. The trials had been difficult, but they had taught him lessons he would carry forever. As Kanu stood by the river, holding Adana and Zuri close, he knew that his life had changed. He no longer feared the future, but he knew that with love, anything was possible. He had faced his greatest fear and had come out stronger, not just for himself, but for his family. The people of Amma celebrated Kanu's bravery and wisdom. He was no longer just the poor fisherman. He had become a hero, someone who had faced impossible challenges and triumphed. But more importantly, Kanu felt peace in his heart. He knew that no matter what trials life would bring, he would face them with love and courage. In the days that followed, Kanu's life was filled with joy. The river seemed to bless him, as he always caught enough fish to feed his family and share with the village. He no longer worried about the future. He trusted in the love that connected him to Adana and Zuri, knowing that it was unbreakable. And so, Kanu lived happily with the knowledge that he had not only passed the 3 trials, but had also discovered the true meaning of strength. It wasn't in wealth or power, but in the love that bound him to his family, a love that would never fade. As the year passed, Kanu's story was told by the people of Amma, passed down from generation to generation. It became a tale of courage, love, and the importance of facing one's fears. And Kanu, the humble fisherman who had once feared losing everything, became a legend, remembered for his bravery and his heart. And in the quiet moments by the river, Kanu would sometimes think of the old man and smile, knowing that the lesson he had learned would stay with him forever.